Hello, doctor, and welcome once again on the channel Healthy Wrinkles. Viewers, today we have once again Dr. Prem, who is a leading geriatric expert from Jaslok Hospital, Mumbai. And we are going to have a conversation with Dr. Prem today on nutritional aspects of elderly. So, doctor, my first question is, welcome, doctor. My first question, doctor, is what are the special nutritional needs elderly do they have?
Okay, so first of all, it's great to be back. We are back after a while, although we are still amongst COVID, but we are hoping that things are only getting better. And I think one of the most important things which are affected in general in COVID also was nutrition. So I think this is a very apt topic and apt question. So it's not only about COVID. As you get older, the nutritional requirements, they obviously change. So why? Because as you age, there's a change in the overall physiological and the functional part as far as older people are concerned. So different requirements of different nutrients will be there. And how will you sort of do? For example, your daily energy expenditure as you get old also will be decreased as compared to maybe when you were younger. So for example, a man, a 20-year-old man will, boy will have maybe needs only 2,200 kilocalories. But a man at 70 years might only needs 1,700 kilocalories. So basically, if you see an example, that's how it works. But there are a lot of, before getting into the specific nutrition, there are a lot of factors which actually are sort of important. So why is decreased energy needs? Maybe because the resting metabolic rate is less, the body mass decreases, physical activity decreases. You always have to think about social factors. For example, somebody is living alone, not necessarily wants to go out and maybe buy stuff if they don't have help. Then chewing and swallowing difficulties, I think very important, which we tend to neglect and forget, because that is something which really hampers an older adult. So if you see, everything is needed. It's not that you only need calories through carbohydrates, you need protein intake also. So around, you can say a normal person, if an older adult is acutely ill, then they might need 1.5 gram per kg per day, or just to maintain the equilibrium around 1 to 1.25 gram kg per day is sort of needed. Energy requirements is there. Protein also helps in energy requirements. So that also is important. Fat intake shouldn't be a lot. Good fat is important. Now talk about omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. Now omega-6 fatty acids are there in vegetable oils, then in nuts, cereal, seeds and all. And omega-3 fatty acids are there in soya bean, spinach, palak jisko hum kehte hain, then fish oil and walnuts. So it's important that we know which type of fat as we go, because it's always said, no, if you have cholesterol, then what to do and all that. Then coming on to the carbohydrate intake. Now, carbohydrate intake is important in general because around more than 50 to 70% of your energy requirement will be carbohydrate. So source of carbohydrate is very important. So whether it's complex, for example, whether it's whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and depending upon what your energy requirement. Apart from this, what older adults also need is fiber. I mean, that is something which is very, very important, because it is not just something you can take for granted, because fiber is very, very important because it reduces constipation. And there are two types of fiber. One is water soluble, one is water insoluble. So if it is water insoluble, then it reduces the constipation, because it basically just makes sure that your stools become much, much better. And there is water soluble one, which will help in reducing your LDL and also the total cholesterol. Another important thing which is a part of nutrition is water. I think we always tend to forget the liquid part, that is a water intake. Because over the age of 60 to 65, it's inability to regulate the fluid intake. So the older person themselves, through the body, due to the aging process, will not be able to regulate. Urine output can increase, the concentrating ability decreases, so it will be more it will be more concentrated, and that there will be difficulty. Then they do not understand the risks. So sometimes they will inappropriately restrict, saying that I am not feeling thirsty, so I am not drinking. Or they'll be having problem with urine, which we have sort of losing control. So they'll be like, if I drink more water, I'll go more. But at least 1 liter minimum and a maximum of 3 liters is good, depending upon, of course, the heart, the kidney, because you can have restrictions as far as that is concerned. So all these things encompass. So a general feeling is only we talk about carbohydrates, that's energy, but no, it's a variety. And I think two things which you should never forget is fiber intake and water intake, because it's all a combination that gives you a better nutrition.
Yeah, I think the very, very important point, Doctor, you have made. Coming to, so while you talked about, the macronutrients, coming to the micronutrients side, how do you sort of, in the elderly patient, whether there are any needs they undergo any significant changes, say vitamins, minerals, and a few other areas, and what is the generally suggested approach in terms of how do you balance that? You try and get everything through the diet, or maybe external supplementations, or how one goes about it, Doctor?
See, first of all, I think it is very important that before we try to supplement and correct, we know the risk factors. Now, if you see, if they have chewing problems, if they're living alone, if they're chair-bound, bed-bound, if they have any acute conditions, are they having swallowing difficulty, are they having socioeconomic problems, whether there is malnutrition, which has actually set in. Why I'm saying is, before I get to your answer, is because these factors should not be neglected, or else we will only concentrate on correcting the nutrition part rather than correcting the risk factor. Because we might have to address the risk factors first, because the nutrition and supplementation thing will vary with everybody. For example, if somebody has a CA, carcinoma of the tongue, which is really space occupying, I cannot give things through diet directly through the mouth. So I have to change it. I will have to give maybe a Ryle's tube, or I'll have to give only liquids and try to mash more things. Whereas if it's a bedridden patient who cannot move, who cannot eat on their own, maybe a history of stroke, you might have to go for a Ryle's tube. If there is no swallowing at all. So it will sort of vary. Now, as I said, the energy part might be taken care of, but supplementation through food is always priority number one. That's why we always encourage older adults, please take your green leafy vegetables, please take your fruits. Even if you have restrictions or maybe diabetes, try to reduce the quantity and take it, because these are very important. They balance your actually food. Then try to get your vitamin B12 if you're a non-vegetarian through your meat, through your fish and meat and all. Whereas if you're a vegetarian, it becomes more difficult. You might actually have to supplement, but it is there in certain leafy vegetables. So try to take that. However, sometimes you have to maybe supplement, because the thing with supplementation is it shouldn't be generally this thing which always comes in the mind is supplement will be only vitamins, or supplement will be only like calcium. That is not the case. It is actually protein supplements which actually are very, very important, because people can be in such a state where breakdown is continuous and you have to supplement in some way or the other, because their food intake in general is reduced and they don't want to eat. So protein powders, variety of them for diabetics, non-diabetics, I think they are very, very important. Very simply taken also, it can be taken with milk, it can be taken with water, it can be taken with multiple times. And usually if there are no real restrictions as far as the kidney and the liver are concerned, they're well tolerated also. Another thing which we always forget is it's not only the protein powder which matters, it's the taste also. Sometimes flavor of that matters. For example, I have had patients who do not like vanilla. So I tell them go for chocolate. So these are minute things. But if you just say take the protein powder, you might realize they are not taking it. Okay, then we'll have to try something else. Maybe it's just about flavor. So that question should be asked to them, and try to change that, or try to titrate an experiment. Give this first and give that. This is for the caregivers, because they should not only, sometimes what happens is just for the need of giving, it's so important that the caregivers just put pressure and say, no, you have to take it, whether they like the flavor or not. So that can be a big problem. Apart from that, I think vitamin D supplementation is very, very important, very commonly neglected, only unfortunately discovered after fractures. I mean, I have heard orthopedicians tell me that they have actually seen the bones so brittle that they're literally breaking in their hands when they're trying to operate. So such bad. Maybe the vitamin D will be 5, 10, such very, very low. So it's better that a bone mineral density screening is done, and vitamin D is seen at least once a year, hopefully through the screening. Unfortunately, it's slightly expensive. So at some point it should be done, and it should be corrected, very easily corrected. It can be corrected in oral form. It can be corrected in an injection if it is very low, or it can be corrected even in the form of sachet, which can be taken with milk. Then I think vitamin B12, these B complexes, vitamin B12, folic acid, these are all also important, because then they reduce, they tend to cause memory problems. And they will cause neuropathy also. So I think they should also be supplemented if they have not been able to. See, the first priority is always diet, but if it is not been able to supplement, then that. Then another supplementation which is very important is calcium. Now I think calcium is also very, very important. Now people ask me questions like, what if I have had a history of stones, then should I take that calcium or not? Now it depends upon what is the history, how much is there, and what is your calcium level. If it's already too much, then you will obviously will have to restrict. But usually the amount which we give hardly will cause you any harm. Then the common questions which are encountered, of course, through supplements are these omega-3 fatty acids and the omega-6 ones. Now it's very, very, let me be very frank. It's whether you are being able to supplement through the food or not. Remember, I am worried about your drug burden also. How many pills will you take? Do you still have taste? If you have taste for food, you would rather take it through food rather than popping only pills. Because if you take supplements, your number of pills will go as high as maybe 20, 30 if you're only concentrating on the supplement. So try to do it on the diet. But if you're not able to do it through diet, then do not neglect not taking the supplementation. Don't just think that just because an ex person who's your friend is taking supplementation, you need to take it. You need to take it because you need it, and not because it's just that everybody gets old, everybody keeps taking supplementation. No, that is not the case. There are very robust old people who don't need supplementation. They only need normal. They might maximum take calcium, vitamin D, because the bone, obviously bone health gets a bit destroyed, and their food, they are taking adequate enough so that the supplements are taken care of. Food habits cannot be changed suddenly. That's why we always need to be very flexible as nutritionists, as caregivers, that try to work around what you want to give them rather than changing everything, because changing entire regimens is not very easy with older adults.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Wonderful, you explained all the points. So I think 2 or 3 take-home messages which I felt like, it's not only the energy, but I think the complete balanced nutrition part, which is, your micro and macronutrients, both is very important. I think water is another point that you mentioned is such an important point. I think second point that we talked about, depending upon the condition of the individual, a lot of, changes you might have to undertake depending upon other indications, other conditions of the individual. And the third, I think, important point is that as much as possible, achieve it through a balanced diet. But if balanced diet is not adequate, then I think you should not wait too long for giving the supplementation, but supplementation are needed in that case. And not because my friend takes it, so even I need to take it. So I think that I think mindset, we need to avoid it for sure.
Yeah. And another thing I just want to add to it is, do not just take supplements because they're available over the counter. Please inform your doctor, clarify about it, and then only take. Sometimes it's just, for example, if one supplement has got 100 in one, and people are like, no, everything, but the quantity matters. How much does it have? So please try to confirm it from your doctor and then only take. The tendency is just because it is available over the counter, it must be safe or it must be good. Do not just trust those instincts of yours. Clarify from the doctor and then only try to take.
Thank you, doctor, for your time and wonderful insights into nutrition, balanced diet, and how one should go about it as far as the nutritional requirements of elderly persons are concerned. So thank you, doctor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.